Metazoa Snapshot is a comprehensive org management solution to help maintain, manage, clean up, and optimize your Salesforce orgs. Visual workspaces with intuitive tools help to reduce complexity and simplify workflow. Just drag, drop, and connect. Optimize your org and lower the total cost of ownership by identifying which assets are used the least and cleaning up unused fields and metadata. Quickly restore metadata in disaster recovery situations by scheduling automated backups or taking snapshots on demand. Easily manage releases and migrate metadata and data between sandbox and production environments while automatically recording deployment history. Visualize profiles and permission sets with mass edit and user assignment capabilities. Compare differences in metadata between orgs and over time, and set notifications to trigger alerts when changes occur. Detailed reporting makes it easy to compare user profiles and manage permission sets across multiple orgs. Reduce complexity with comprehensive org management from Metazoa Snapshot for Salesforce.
We were just a bunch of nerdy kids who ignored the haters. We took their ridicule and we built on it. And when some of us gave up, well, we built on that too. Built resilience, built on a mission to make things a little better every day until the users came. Then the haters were VCs who scoffed at our audacity. This just isn't the way things are done. But we kept building. Users turned into teams, turned into companies, running their entire businesses on our apps. Then the software giants came after us. We weren't proven, we weren't fully featured, our radical cloud model wasn't secure. But we built on. And today, as companies adopt the cloud to move faster, teams are finding themselves slowed down by each other's efforts. The skeptics are claiming we'll never develop innovation at scale. But now, DevOps have come to the cloud, ushering in a new era of transformation. Companies can release on demand across hundreds of environments, innovating faster with fewer conflicts and fewer disruptions. There will always be challenges. There will always be naysayers. And we'll build on.
Thanks guys for joining our session. Today we want to talk to you about Lightning communities in our presentation, Control the Storm, Becoming a Lightning Community Master.
So hi everybody, I am Megan Brodke. I am a technical architect and Salesforce MVP. I am also the practice manager of the architecture team over at Exceed Consulting. I have been in the Salesforce ecosystem now for just around 12 years. I am the founder of Ohana Slack, and you can follow me on Twitter at MeganSF. I would love to connect with all of you. Please feel free to reach out and say hi. And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. Please make sure to reach out and connect with me there as well. I love talking about not only communities, but also talking about Salesforce as a whole. So for those of you that already follow me, you already know that. I'm always reaching out to say hi. So please make sure that you reach out anytime that you've got a question. Another great place to find me is on Ohana Slack, where I'm also regularly answering questions. It's a great real-time platform to get real-time help, connect with others, and to just talk about events and any Salesforce questions. Over to you, Kenton.
Awesome, thanks Megan. Hey guys, my name is Kenton Samangao. I'm also a employee at Exceed Consulting. I am a consultant. I am part of the architecture team that Megan was just mentioning. Been in Salesforce ecosystem for about 4.5 years now. I have 7 certifications, my most recent one coming in the last couple of weeks. I just got my first architecture one. Extremely excited about that. And again, props to Megan. Set me up for success, and I nailed it. Also, like Megan mentioned, we love meeting new people. So please reach out, LinkedIn, Twitter, always looking to meet new people. Awesome, so let's jump right into the presentation. So today, we want to give you an overview of communities. We want to understand the licensing and security involved. We're gonna walk through how we can build communities out using Experience Builder, understand some tips on search, understand what CMS CMSs and how we can leverage it in the community, and then round it out with some community use cases. Megan, you want to talk through some community overview?
Absolutely. So communities are a great way to extend your brand to your partners and your customers, and to show them just who you are and to develop great one-on-one relationships with them. It's a great way to promote and develop your customers to have self-service and to show them that they can help themselves. As millennials are becoming more and more people that are using the communities and using customer service, self-service is becoming, number one as a way to have the way that customer service is being used. And so they don't want to wait on hold. They don't want to sit there and wait for a representative to answer a phone. So by having a way for them to be able to look up a knowledge base, to have a way to reach out online when they don't have a solution, using case deflection so that they are able to find out while they are typing in their case recommendations for a previous discussion within the community, as well as a knowledge article that has matching keywords and topics so that they can resolve that case before they even create it. Having that knowledge base with FAQs and answers to their questions, recommendations on how to get started. And by having a community that is not only mobile friendly, but is mobile responsive. Salesforce is thinking mobile first. Your out-of-the-box components are designed to work not only on your desktop, but also on your tablet, your iPad, your phone. Think about how many hours a day you spend looking at your phone. I know that I spend most of my day staring at a screen, and your community is created with those out-of-the-box components to work with that screen. So your community is created to work with all these different devices and to work by creating an environment that works where your users, be it partners or customers, are spending their time and in the type of service that they are looking for in their everyday life. Over to you, Ken.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. So let's talk about licensing and security. So the one thing that we wanted to bring up here on this licensing slide is, there's three main license types that are available when working with communities. Those are the customer community plus, and partner licenses. Now, within these three licenses, there are limitations that we want to make sure you are aware of. Coming back up to the customer community, now this is going to be your most basic license. It's going to be used for your high volume users. Things like reports and dashboards, advanced sharing, delegate admin rights, so community users managing other community users. It's not going to be available for the customer community license. If things like those and features are needed, it's likely you'll need to explore the customer community plus to be able to show the reports and dashboards, be able to use that advanced sharing. Continue on. If there are things that you need to expose sales data, for example, opportunities, leads, you're going to need to explore the partner community license. So things to keep in mind when really focusing your licensing structure and determining which license type you want to use. The other thing we wanted to make sure you guys are all aware of is a community can be accessed publicly. So you can actually access a community without having a license put in place, essentially as a guest user. One thing to keep in mind with the guest user in the access, there are limitations regarding page views. So for example, I believe an enterprise orgs has a 500,000 page view per month, and for unlimited editions, a 1 million page view. So things to keep in mind when working through your licensing structure. Are we going to go with a guest, or are we going to set our users with, a license type? All good things. Megan, you want to give a little bit of brief talk about these seats versus login?
Absolutely. So seats versus login. When we think about Salesforce and you think about your internal licenses, you usually think about that one username, they have a Salesforce license. That is a Salesforce seat. When you are working with communities, Salesforce has also created a different type of license base for those community users called a login-based license. Now, these are for when you have a large number of users that may or may not be logging in regularly. And that is set up on a 1 to 20 setup. So let's say you buy 1,000 login or monthly logins. You then have 20,000 login licenses that you can create for those 1,000 login licenses or monthly logins. And those usernames can be created out of your Salesforce org. And those users can log in for that number of times for those 1,000 logins. Now, why such a high ratio? So Salesforce is giving you that opportunity to create that large number of users to cover those logins, because you can have users that sporadically log in. Maybe your users don't log in as many, every single day. Your internal Salesforce users, you want them logging into your Salesforce org every single day. That's why you have seats. Your community users may not be as dedicated. And so in that situation, you could have a login license. What's really great is you can have a combination of seats versus logins. Let's say those IT directors that log into your community, they're going to be logging in pretty frequently. But maybe you have executives that aren't going to be logging in as frequently, but they still need a license. In that case, you may have seats for those IT directors that log in to create those tickets all the time, but executives would get login licenses. And speaking of mixing licenses, you can also have Customer Community Plus mixed with Customer Community, mixed with Partner, all of those mixed with seats and login licenses. Within your community, you can have a mix and match of any of these licenses that you see displayed here, all of which can be mixed with seats and logins. Over to you, Ken.
Yeah, I definitely love the seats first login, and like you said, something to really visit as you're working through your licensing structure. One thing we also wanted to mention here on the right-hand side is outside of those main licenses, there are some minor licenses that are available. Your App Starter, your App Plus, and your platform licenses. Now, I know I personally have not spent a lot of time with these minor licenses. Megan, do you want to give a brief kind of walkthrough or gotchas and things to keep in mind with these minor licenses?
Yeah, so for your Lightning App Starter and your Lightning App Plus, you are able to get a more configurable option for which you are able to access. You get additional custom objects, additional custom storage, but just keep in mind additional objects and additional storage come at an additional cost. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at your licenses. One other thing to keep in mind is the licenses that you see, the Customer Community Plus, Customer Community, Partner, the Lightning App Starter and Lightning App Starter Plus, everything except for the platform license on here. Those are for external users. Do not assign those licenses to people that are at your own company. Those are for your customers and your partners. They are not for your internal users. If you have licenses that you want to assign to your internal users that may not be using your standard license, consider getting a platform license if you want them to just use the community. It is against the terms of service for your communities and for your community license to assign the Partner, Customer Community Plus, Customer Community, Lightning App Starter, and Lightning App Starter Plus.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Megan. So jumping into our next slide, this is a continuation of kind of what we talked about just in an illustration. So with those three main license types, I did bring up that there are limitations within each of them. As you can see in the bottom left, your customer community, things like reports and dashboards, delegate admin rights. So again, that community user managing other community users is not available. That Customer Community Plus is likely the license you need. And then even continuing up into the partner community. So sales activity data like leads, opportunities, you're going to need to go with the partner community license.
So one thing to make note of on this template or on this diagram is the fact that you may see the MDF and channel sales located next to the partner community. So MDF stands for Market Development Funds. That is a way to track previously not available functionality that was often built custom for tracking marketing budgets, fund claims, and fund requests for partners within your community. That's only available for partner licenses, and it only shows once you have a partner license within your org, but it is now included rather than having to build it out custom. And there's some great automation that you can create with that with the guided setup. So pretty great functionality, but again, only available with the partner licenses.
Good to know. Cool. So let's jump in. Talk about licensing and the structure that is available. Now let's transition into security. Obviously, we know externally and the security around that is very critical. Salesforce does provide us options to be able to handle security. Starting with the top one, sharing sets. One of my favorites is a declarative tool that allows you to essentially take a lookup field and match it against Salesforce records to expose information to your community users. I actually want to jump from the presentation and walk through an example to show you just how easy it is to put together a sharing set. So I'm going to jump out of the presentation. I'm going to jump to my dev org, make sure I'm still logged in. And within my org here, I have a couple communities stood up, and I have a data model of accounts with a custom to my account object called projects. Now what I want to do is create a sharing set that says for my community users that come into the community, I want them to be able to see the projects associated with their account. So to create a sharing set from setup, what I'm going to do is go to community settings. And within community settings, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. There's a sharing sets list. I'm going to go ahead and click the new button. And this screen is essentially allowing me to create my sharing set. Obviously, it's always good practice to give descriptions for your configuration. But one thing I want to keep in kind of mention here, when working with a sharing set, you are limited to one sharing set per object per profile. So what I want to do from a naming convention is kind of keep that in mind. So what I'm going to do, and I've actually kind of tested some of this before, I'm going to select this name right here, which is the name of one of my profiles I have for my community users. We're going to use that because of that, limitation of one sharing set per object per profile. I'm going to scroll down now and select the profile I want. Again, the one that I just mentioned. And now we're then able to see the objects. Now, one thing to keep in mind when working with the objects is, one, for custom objects, if your object does, or your custom object does not have a lookup relationship field or relationship field, you will not see that custom object available in the available objects section. Also, if your objects org-wide defaults are public read-write, you will not see them here as well. So things to keep in mind when configuring your sharing set. But as I mentioned in my example, my child object is called project. So I'm going to go ahead and select project. And you can see down at the bottom now, it's essentially the ability to configure my access. Now what I want to do in setup is determine my mapping. So what I'm going to see here is grant access where the users, and I'm going to use users contacts account matches my target project objects, custom lookup account field, and for the access level, just so you guys are aware, my org-wide default for my project object externally is set to private. So I'm going to, in this purpose of demo, I'm just going to give them read only. So what I'm going to do here is update. I'm going to save. And essentially now I have my sharing set put in place. So as you can see here, very, very quickly for me to be able to stand up, sharing sets to be able to expose data externally. Megan, anything you want to add to the sharing set right here?
No, I think this is a great example. So sharing sets previously were only available for customer community licenses and are now available for customer community plus, and partners. Ken mentioned before. And they should be your #1 go-to when using sharing for your first I know one other thing to mention, shameless plug. I previously wrote a blog post about sharing sets and how to set them up. And I know that Ken just did a great demonstration, but I am going to drop that post into the chat for anyone that wanted some step-by-step instructions as well. So there you all go. And then Ken, why don't you tell us a little bit about sharing rules as well?
Yeah, thanks, Megan. So if you guys remember when we were talking through the different main licenses in that illustration, now sharing rules were something that was available for the customer community plus licenses. However, we all are aware that sharing rules do have their limits, the number of criteria-based, ownership-based that we can have in a system, right? So, we just recommend, obviously, if possible, use sharing sets when you can. Sharing rules, again, can be limited. And if you're working with a customer community license type, you won't even be able to leverage sharing rules. So things to keep in mind, but we did want to just explain that sharing rules is an option, with your customer community plus and partner licenses. Megan, you want to explain a little bit of account relationships and channel program?
Absolutely. So account relationships are very similar to sharing sets. However, they are only available for customer community plus and partner. In addition, instead of sharing on the account and contact, they share based on the user in the contact. They also allow you to, rather than share every single record based on that field, that lookup field, they allow you to instead share with parameters. So if I only wanted to share accounts that were active when this field is listed on there, or if I only wanted to share opportunities as long as they are open or closed won. And so I would stop sharing opportunities once they're closed lost. I have that opportunity to do so with account relationship sharing. And you're able to create multiple account relationship rules per object and per designation. It's not done by profile. It's done by being a system integrator and being this field. You can do multiple versus the sharing set. You saw they were limited. One profile can have this one object shared in this one way. So just a little bit more flexibility that goes along with those. But again, they're not available for that customer community license. It being a high volume license that has those additional limits there. Next up, you have a channel program. So channel programs are only available for partner licenses, but they're pretty cool. So anyone that is in the Salesforce ecosystem has probably heard about how Salesforce has gold partners, silver partners, platinum partners. So that's similar to how you can work with a channel program. So you're able to create your own designation, be it by a tier ranking, such as gold, silver, platinum, or you can do it by geography. If you want to do the Americas, EMEA, APAC. Perhaps you even want to do, partners who have a favorite color of pink, a favorite color of yellow, a favorite color of blue. You are working with data here, so you have as much flexibility as you want with channel programs. And then you are able to then take these channel programs and then share out reports and dashboards. You can share out components on a page and use them within your audiences and create dynamic pages. You can use them within queues and really create some flexibility and some really dynamic options when it comes to who sees what in your community using those channel programs. So a great example would be if only, everybody sees what bronze partners see. Once you get up to that silver level, you start to see a little bit more. And then once you hit that platinum level, there's specific information that only platinum partners should be able to see. Using that type of tiered system to decide what is visible to those users, what reports are visible to them, what components they can see, gives you a lot more flexibility. And also it works well with the partner scorecard, not directly tied with sharing and visibility, but a great way to be able to track and report directly tied to the partner account. With a button on the partner account, you decide what those reports are, and it can be launched from that report. And partners are able to move up through these different tiers or different levels. You can set that up to be automated, or you can have that be manual. Again, a lot of flexibility because you are setting up these tiers and how that movement works. Next up, there's Apex sharing. Ken, why don't you tell us about Apex sharing?
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure you guys are all aware, one, when we were talking instructor, as a last resort, Apex sharing is available. Like we mentioned when talking through licensing structure, this is not available for your high volume users. So your customer and community license cannot take advantage of the Apex sharing. That's going to be something that would have to be done with the customer and community plus or partner licenses. So again, should be a last resort whenever possible, clicks before code, as we all say. Yeah, we just wanted to make sure you're aware, as a last resort, Apex sharing is there for you. Cool. Megan, you want to talk us through the sharing pyramid that you created that I love?
Yeah. So most of you have probably seen the standard Salesforce sharing pyramid. I've actually added in some of the items that we've talked about here, where you're opening up sharing as you go up. You'll notice that we have our sharing rules, we have our sharing sets added, and our account relationship sharing. Using the standard sharing pyramid whenever you're on a Salesforce exam, it's always a great idea. And when you're taking your community cloud exam, making sure that you know which different parts of the community specific sharing opens up sharing where and how is definitely important. You'll notice that your profile and permission set at the base of the pyramid and stand alone due to the fact that if you don't have access to the object, you're not going to be able to see the object no matter how much that object is opened up. With your org-wide default being the most precise and manual sharing giving you the most flexibility. So just different ways that things are opened up as you go through. And you'll notice that, again, those items are swapped out where you do not see it. Territory rules as they don't apply to the community users and some of those other items, but you'll notice the account relationship sharing sets, etc. Next slide.
Awesome. Yeah, so to kind of round out the licensing and security, as we just saw, profiles and permission sets, they go back to your licenses. They kind of, trump everything. If you don't have access to the object, obviously the sharing involved will do nothing. Also, when we're talking externally, right, sharing information to external users is, very critical. You should always have your org-wide defaults externally set to private. And then also licensing restrictions. So when walking through and understanding, the different licensing structure you're thinking about going, really understand, and think ahead as, am I going to need my community users to manage other community users? Maybe a combination of customer community and customer community plus licenses is something that you need to explore. So all things to really consider when looking at licensing and security. Awesome. Next, Megan, do you want to talk us through Experience Builder, how templates, themes, and components can be managed in a community?
Absolutely. So jumping into our Experience Builder. So you have your template when you are working with your community. You have three different parts: your template, your theme, and your components are your three main pieces. Your template is your foundation. Picking your template, be it Partner Central or customer service, this decides what components and what pages and which objects are added out of the box. Then you have your theme. It's kind of like your UI. For those of you that are old enough to remember Winamp or anything similar to Winamp, it's like the skin that you threw on there and how you needed that Hansen skin or that Metallica skin every time you needed to download the new version of Winamp. It's pretty much just what makes it pretty. It's the wallpaper. Your theme can be out of the box, it can be customer installed, so can your template, so can your components. And you can also find your out-of-the-box themes within the Community Builder, now rebranded Experience Builder, by going into the little paintbrush on the left-hand side, and you can click on there. You can also find it with the left-hand gear, not the top gear, but the left-hand gear. And you can go in there, you can click into your theme, and you'll be able to change it there as well. You'll notice that you have things like Jepson, Cypress, and you can just change what the appearance of that template is. But you're not actually changing the base functionality at all. All the pages you have selected stay the same. All the components for your template remain the same as well. And so you're keeping that same functionality throughout the process of changing your theme. You can also install themes and templates, all from the App Exchange. Some of you, and I know we've got a question about this as well, and I promise you we're getting there. I think it's my next slide, where we start talking about bolts. And you can install those bolts as well. The next item are your components. Now, your component, very similar to flow components, are just that one little piece of functionality that you need to add. You get to drag and drop it onto your template, onto the page. You can install it, you can build it, or it's out of the box. For example, the record detail component is a component. It is a piece of functionality that you drag and drop onto the page. You can also, like I said, install these. There is an app on the App Exchange for the org hierarchy. So that is a component. You work with components within the Experience Builder the same way that you do within the Lightning App Builder, where you get to just drag and drop them around. One thing to note, though, is that your page layouts within the Experience Builder can be entirely different than your page layouts within the Lightning App Builder, as well as the components available out of the box are different within the Experience Builder than they are within the Lightning App Builder. Next slide, please. So the bolt templates. So I wasn't skipping your question. I was just waiting to get to this slide, just so you know. So bolt templates, for those of you that are curious and like to click inside of your Salesforce and inside the Experience Builder, there is a section where you get to click, and you may have noticed that you get to export your pages, export your theme, export your template. You get to export to make a bolt. That's what you're gonna do. You can make your own. And a bolt is kind of like a quick start. There's some great information out there on the Salesforce community. Some of it's a little bit difficult to find, but I can definitely get some links together and post a few of those on Twitter. I'll also make sure that I get some decks out and make sure that I share those on my Google Drive so that they're all in a nice, easy place to find. And you can also add flows to these. One thing to note is, similar to when you make a template, you can add it specific objects in the beginning. You can add specific components so that they show. You can make sure that you've got specific pages laid out in a specific way. You can even come up with your own custom page layouts for your bullet templates. Now, one thing that is kind of a bummer is that you can't have page variations. So I know that a lot of us like to play with our dynamic components, our dynamic pages, and those all go away when you package up your bolt. You only get one page layout. All your audiences go away. Your multi-language goes away. You just get that one variation. So just keep that in mind. And the audiences that you created, they just don't show up in the bolt. They'll still stay in your community, but they go away in the bolt. So just a heads up. And yeah, they're pretty cool to use. They're a lot of fun. They do go through the standard App Exchange security review process when you post them on the App Exchange. So they are going through that same process as any other app did. They are available for anything from a manufacturing community to an employee bolt community, to just having individual page layouts, to having everything from e-commerce to flows to components to having the whole shebang. So yeah, next slide, Ken. It's your turn.
Awesome. So kind of transitioning, we were talking about the experience builder and how we can drag and drop. And we also started to talk about page variations. One thing that we wanted just to kind of call out and make sure and bring to your guys' attention is, tips on search pages. So within, building out a community, there are 2 search pages that are available. There's the global search results and the just search results page. Most people are probably using the search results. One thing to keep in mind with that is it's not configurable. Essentially, you just have the ability to search knowledge and discussions. Whenever possible, you should leverage the global search results page. Within this, you're able to configure which objects you want users to be able to search against. And also, as Megan was mentioning, leveraging page variations. Maybe you have a certain type of users that should be able to see, or search additional objects versus a normal user. All things that can be done when using the global search results. Also, with the global search results, when leveraging the global peer-to-peer, you do have the ability to specify objects you want autocomplete to be available for. So all things to keep in mind when, understanding and working with search in a community. Cool. Awesome. So coming kind of to the fun with the out of the box. So like Megan mentioned, jazz up your community, use a custom theme. Out of the box themes, they include hero units, custom headers to give you that different look, but the same components. When out of the box components can't solve your problem, don't worry, you have the ability to leverage custom components. Custom themes, say your community needs to get that pixel perfect look. Custom themes is the route that you could possibly go. And then lastly, global actions. They run tons in the community world, but be careful with these. They don't fight your assignment rules. Awesome. So Megan, I know I'm excited. I think let's jump into some CMS and hopefully you can show us some cool things.
Awesome. I am going to steal sharing from you here. Let me just pull up my community workspace. Sorry, I was jumping in there answering a bunch of questions. So I'm getting ready for my demo. Here we go. Share my screen, and it is this one. Awesome. So everybody, I am going to do a bit of a demo on what is Salesforce CMS. So for those of you who are curious about CMS, there are 3 different types of CMS. And rather than go through this in a bunch of different slides, I figured I would just show them to you. So we're going to get started. And the way you access CMS is within your community workspace. And to get started, your community workspace, every community has a workspace, and that is your tiles. And you're going to access your CMS within the content management area. And you are going to notice that there are 3 different options on the side. There is shared content. That is your CMS proper, as in native CMS. That is made within Salesforce and no longer made within the community workspace. There is now the CMS app and CMS tab. And this is where you can make images, banners, news. It's great for exposing information that's not knowledge, such as links, highlights. You can create approval processes with these and then drop them into Salesforce or drop them into your experience builder from Salesforce. And they can be shared across communities and across apps. So lots of options there. And you have your Salesforce CRM CMS. Mouthful of words there, I know. So this is where you are able to take things such as your objects. And let's say you have a product catalog. and you want to make that something beautiful within the community. So you are able to do that from here. And if you have an image on your products, and instead of displaying it in a standard list view, you're now able to display that in, for example, a card view with tiles. This is actually what we are going to be using for our demo, and I'll be getting back to that in just one moment. The last item I want to talk about is CMS Connect. You'll notice that I actually have a connection here to WordPress. CMS Connect is one of the most amazing features available for your communities. What used to take months of integration, for example, I'm going to use my own experience of trying to integrate Adobe AEM into a community. A 6-month project can now be done within minutes instead of months. Literally, a 6-month project can be done within 5 minutes. Absolutely amazing that you are able to do these integrations so quickly and so easily. You can bring over multi-language, you can bring over different areas, you can bring over different libraries, all with clicks. It can be done by an admin instead of having developers code it all. Absolutely amazing. And you'll notice that I brought over my WordPress blog into my community. You can bring over Drupal. You can bring over Sitecore. You can bring over items that require authentication now rather than having it be public. Absolutely awesome. But we're going to jump over into this Salesforce CRM CMS. And we're going to hit this Add CRM Connections. And we're going to scroll down here. We will scroll up a little bit more, and you'll notice that we have timesheet here. And we're going to hit Save. We'll then go over here to our collections option. And again, we are just showing you how to set up a collection with one of the Salesforce CRM objects. I'm going to click on New here, and I'm going to go Sample Timesheet. Here you have CMS content. This allows you to create a filter, such as anything that is tagged with a specific topic or anything created after a specific date. But again, we are using the Salesforce CRM, and this allows you to bring over list views. And I'm going to go for timesheet. And you'll notice here that we have all of those different fields from the list view. So again, it's as easy as creating a list view within Salesforce proper with the fields that you want to have display within your tile or your cards. And I want to display all, and then hit finish. And that is all it will take. We'll be able to jump over into our community. And then this loads. We'll be able to drag and drop over our collection item. I know we're running a little short on time, so I am going to pass this back over to Kenton for your turn, Kenton. Jumping into use cases.
Awesome. Yep. Let me steal the screen back. All right. And we are here. So awesome. So we went through a bunch of content. I know if I were you guys, you know, my mind would be like thinking, how can I use all this information I've learned to build out communities? You know, how could I leverage some of the CMS stuff that Megan just walked us through in a community? Now, just want to round that out with understanding some use cases. So we kind of briefly talked about some of these in the overview, but just wanted to come back to them. So self-service, you know, people like me, I like to be able to get my answers and complete things on my own. Community is a great solution for something self-service. Maybe there's frequently asked questions, you know, a guest or public community that exposes knowledge base is another option for a community. Or customer and partner collaboration with each other, you know, and be able to manage that. For example, field service lightning, scheduling, dispatch, you know, tracking and orders, things like that. And also, you know, internal, just because a community is kind of labeled as external doesn't mean you can't stand up a community for your internal employees to, you know, have collaboration. They can use the community to collaborate back and forth, you know, socially. So all things to keep in mind, and you know, when trying to understand where exactly can a community be used. Cool. I know I went through that last slide really quick, but wanted to just kind of give some time for some questions if you guys had. Also, we do want to thank you all for joining. And
Awesome. Thank you all so much for being here. And I know I have been feverishly typing away and answering some of your questions. So for those of you that are still typing them in, if I do not get to your questions, please feel free to reach out to us after this, and we will absolutely make sure that we get them answered. Couple of questions. So I've got a few people that wanted to see what the collections look like. So once you drop a collection onto the page, so this is an example of what it looks like. You've got a few different options. You'll notice I just dropped the CMS collection component on here, completely out of the box. I'm using the banner layout. I have set this up for my field mapping. So I'm using the link name. I'm using an image there to drop that in. And I have an option. I played around with this. I tried it before with a URL as well as with an actual image. So played around a couple of times to figure out which one actually made it work in the past. Definitely worth a shot. But yeah, pretty cool ways. You can also change some of the sizing. And like I said, this is kind of a cool way to play with to see, do I want to display a product catalog? It's kind of a neat way to display some of the contacts in your org. You'll notice that the user list view doesn't actually exist. You have a user list page, but there's no user list component. So playing around with some of this stuff and coming up with how to do some of the displaying is definitely, it's fun. So collections are a nice way to work with that. And then, there we go. And have a couple of other options. Tile, grid. You can also switch these out. Carousel, slideshow, strip. You can make these have more columns, less columns. A lot of configuration options. Change the size, change the width. Jumping around to some of those other questions, but yeah. And then to show you the CMS option as well for CMS Connect. Sorry, CMS option means so many things. CMS Connect option. And yes, you can override the new button with a lighting component. You can also add a totally different one and remove the prior button. So that's an option as well. CMS is available for all licenses. This question has come up a few times. I know it's hard to find too. There is a weird permission. You have to go in, you have to assign the CMS permission even for the system admin and access to the CMS app within Salesforce. It is tricky and it is annoying. Been there, done that. I got into a fight with my dev a couple of weeks ago about it, back when Spring came out. So it's there. It's just hard to get to. They hide it on you. So it's available for all the additions. You just have to go and assign that permission, and that app is the CMS workspace permission, as well as the CMS app and the CMS workspace tab. And this one here is the one that says JSON that connects to WordPress. And you'll notice that I'm just feeding my blog in. It dropped it on my homepage. And then we have the, yes, you can override the new button in the custom lightning components in the community portal, and you can do it inside the regular org. Again, yes. So you have email a case. So I recommend, instead of using web the case, use a the question about the web the case form, instead using a global action. Global actions are going to be your best friend in communities rather than messing with HTML. The one thing I do recommend messing with HTML for is that when you have to use an HTML component, even if you have customer community plus licenses or customer community licenses, if those users need to somehow make a lead, even though they don't have access, you can do a nice little workaround by creating a flow that creates a platform event and then creates the lead with a process builder instead of using the web to lead form. It's the normal web to lead form. Kenton, any input from you there on some of these questions?
Yeah, and one thing I want to add with that, the last point you said with the platform event, you know, Megan and I actually worked on something interesting where we were trying to solve declaratively. But what I want to mention is with Summer 20 coming out, you can actually have your before insert flows be able to subscribe to platform events. So I look forward to looking into that a little more and understanding that to possibly, you know, remove the process builder that's in there if I can just leverage that. But I'm reading through the questions as well.
So for sharing about files that are on cases, so if a user is added to the case, if they are a partner on that case and part of the case team, they should have the file shared with them. You can also look at Apex sharing in that situation. If they are the person that added the files to the case, they should be able to see them. So I guess I would need a little bit more information about that one as to how they are not being seen. If you don't want to share the files, you're going to need to have somebody not share them specifically, probably, if they are somebody that is a member of the case. Or if they're the person that is on the case that created it, and you just have people that are manually uploading internally files onto that case, just make sure that you do not have the auto share of files functionality turned on for all your records. It's either turning on auto share for record-based security of files across the board everywhere, or to not have record-based files auto share across the board for everything with community users. There is no per object choices. Files are not set to be that specific and that granular. So there's that. That's kind of some of the options for where things are a little bit all or nothing-y. And we have, and now I know we're down to 3 minutes. And then we have for what you can integrate with for authentication. If you can integrate Salesforce with it for authentication, you can integrate the community with it for authentication. So to answer that question,
I do see there's a question about when to use templates. Obviously, there's a good article out there that talks through what features are available per templates. I know customer service has the most available. So obviously, you know, taking that all into consideration when determining which template to use.
Yeah. And then to show data on a community based on the user and access of that community user. Showing data for a user, that's exactly what sharing says to. They match up based on account and that contact. If that record, if that data matches, then it shares it with that user. Otherwise, if the sharing set doesn't work, you're pretty much coming up with criteria and rules based on the other types of sharing. Just make sure that you don't have your data set to public read write. You're really hitting a danger zone once you do that. If you do set anything to public read only, make sure you have very good reason and that data should be exposed publicly and that you talk to your IT department. And then
yeah, one thing with the sharing set is you do have the related accounts. So definitely something to explore with contacts related to multiple accounts. You do have the ability to leverage that, you know, object when working with sharing sets. Gives you some more features.
As for conditional visibility, so CMS, as with any other component, So you can definitely make your components dynamic. In addition, list views. You want to have a dynamic list view where only data shows based on the fact that they are the owner of that record. You can have that data show my accounts, my timesheets as in my example. And then you can have that data dynamic. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but perhaps. And I know that we're at our last minute. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to us after this. And yes, Salesforce Connect, CMS Connect does allow you to connect to your external data sources, be them authenticated or unauthenticated, such as WordPress, Drupal, or any other external source. You do have other options so that you can get that set up. And we want to say thank you all so much for being here. This was fantastic. You all are amazing. Really appreciate you taking the time.